about 30 years ago, I met one of my best friends, Margarita Gagliardi. And she's from Lima. And when I was in the 5th grade, I had a unit on Peru and had fallen in love with the culture and the Amazon and the Andes and the Pacific and the Quechuan and on and on. Not another country on earth like Peru, and wanted to go so bad. So when I met her about 30 years ago, I started right in. I want to go visit your country. I want to visit your family. I want to see everything about Peru. She said, no, 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 can't go, can't go. There was something there called the Shining Path, which is a terrorist group, and they are known for snatching up blonde women for, ransom. And she knew, you're gone, nobody will pay your ransom, I'll never see you again. That's fine, not going. So 10 years go by. I had things happen in my life. I had a child with severe autism and physical disabilities, and after that, a few years after that, I had a 2-year real scary bout with stage 3 breast cancer. And when I was losing my hair, I told Margarita, I said, no more blonde, we're going. Shamed her into it. So after I got strong again, Shining Path was taken care of by Fujimori, who is a Japanese president that they elected in. He fired everybody in the government, and so we took off and went. It was funny, though. We got down there was not one man policeman. He'd fired all the policemen and put women in instead. Because, and here's his quote, women can't be bought. So I thought that was great. We had a wonderful time. We went to Machu Picchu, we went to Nazca, saw Lima, most beautiful city I've ever seen in my life, and I've been everywhere. She has a cousin, Anna Maria, who works in an orphanage in the shanty town in the poorest part of Lima, and she asked if we'd be interested to see where she works. And it was a Sunday afternoon after lunch. And of course I said yeah, and I was really interested in it, but very apprehensive because of my handicapped son. I was really worried I'd be overwhelmed. So I kind of kept that to myself and just went along and drove through Lima to the poorest area I've ever seen, even on television. I've never, ever seen poverty like this. And shanties on the mountains as far as you could see. One little house stuck up against another with one little light bulb, per block maybe. It was really disturbing. And we get to this little area, and these gates open up, and we drive through into the most beautiful oasis. I mean, it was just breathtaking how calm and beautiful this place was, and with grottos and the Virgin Mary, and the name of the place is Hogar de la Paz, and that's Home of the Peace. And it's run by 7 sisters of missionaries of charity, which is Mother Teresa's charity. And these 7 women were not there. They were out in the community because that's what they do on Sundays. And it was run by volunteers. So there were all these volunteers running around, and on the ground floor is where mentally and physically handicapped men live. There were about 100 of them. And there were ball games on radios. There were guys playing checkers. There were people making food. There were men feeding other men. And I mentioned to one of the women there, I said, boy, you've got a great staff of men here. She said, every one of these men live here. So it's the ones that were able to help the ones that were not able. And it was the most beautiful thing. So that was the main floor. And we walked upstairs we walked through the chapel and upstairs, and a couple of years later, I showed my friends what I had seen in that chapel on the way up to see these babies and children. And it was a life-size painting of Christ after he'd been flogged. It's horrifying, and I'm not into that kind of thing at all, but that stopped me in my tracks, and on the bottom of it, it said, when I thirst, and then next to it, who will, give me water. And in a handwritten on there, it said, be the one. And I thought, wow, that's really interesting. They've got, graffiti on a painting in the chapel, and forgot about it and went upstairs. 35 handicapped children, all sizes and shapes and all kinds of problems, were laying in a row on pallets on the floor. There were people getting their meals ready and feeding them. They had 2 wheelchairs. It was a beautiful day outside, gorgeous. I mean, Peru's got the best weather on the planet. And they had 2 wheelchairs that they could take these children outside 2 at a time in, and the rest of them were either tied in old, dilapidated chairs or laying on pallets on the floor or in beds in these tiny little rooms. And they didn't have ceiling fans, and it was hot in there, and we spent a lot of the day wiping sweat off of them and singing them songs. And all these people that were working there were so peaceful. It wasn't sad at all, this horrible situation, and it wasn't sad. I was just like asking questions and visiting with the kids. And as I was leaving, I turned to one of the volunteers and I said, what do you need? And she looked at me and she said, right now, we need $2,000 to pay for the second 6 months of this year for the only physical therapy person we have. We have one physical therapist. He works for $2,000 for 6 months. I was stunned because my son has physical therapists and they charge $100 an hour. These people are working for about $300 a month. So I thought, wow, that's what came up. And I went home and I thought about this experience and thought about it. And finally, I wrote a letter to all my family and friends. And I just put in there, told them exactly what I'd seen, how I felt, and what this person said they needed, and mailed it. And the first check that came was $2,000. So I thought, okay, well, within a week, I had received $16,000. So they were a month away from, not being able to pay that bill. So I took that $2,000, gave it to Margarita. She wired it to Anna Maria. So we were going, great, we got that. Now we'll see what they need with this other $14,000. Immediately, Anna Maria calls Margarita and says, they won't accept the money. They only accept divine providence. So after looking that up, I thought, well, come on, lady. Mother, sorry, it was a mother, the superior that's saying, absolutely not, can't take this money. So I called Anna Maria, and in her broken English, she got my story across to her. I said, I don't know what this is if it's not that. I had an angel sent to me that cracked my heart. And if I hadn't had this kid, I would never have had the compassion or even the thought to ask, what do you need here? Not what can I do, but what do you need? And I said, and then the first response I get is exactly what this person said you needed. What is that? And so, 5 minutes later, okay, thanks. We'll take it. And so we went from there, and I had a son in Catholic school, and he told the story. And so these kids, we named it Pennies for Peru. And so I've taken thousands of dollars worth of pennies in wagons, in industrial size mayonnaise jars, to the bank over the years. And the students have gotten involved in birthday parties instead of gifts. They've taken money for Pennies for Peru. Made it a 501c3, which was really easy. My dad's an attorney. Took him no time at all to set that up, and it's very inexpensive. And that way the donations that come in are tax deductible. So then the next trip, we took containers of supplies, medical supplies from St. John's and Cox. And the women of the Catholic Church all got involved, and they all had projects for years that sent money down there. And I went and spoke to those places. And it was easy to take big plastic tubs full of medical equipment and toys and physical therapy stuff down there 10 years ago. You couldn't do it now. Barely get a suitcase on there now. And we had garage sales. The first thing I did was send enough toys down there that everybody had a toy. And then we outfitted a physical therapy room. We got a relationship going with Simmons Preston, which is a physical therapy equipment company in the United States. They sold us their equipment at their cost and helped pay for shipping for that directly. And after that happened, we had money. We visited a school for blind where they make wicker furniture. It's just beautiful. But they had no playground equipment. So for $2,000, we built an entire playground, and they ended up building 3 more orphanages, and each one has 2 physical therapists paid for by Pennies for Peru, an occupational therapist, a dentist, a nurse, and they have food banks for the shanty areas, and and then we also pay for medical transportation and some operations and special needs like that. So we had specific things that we were taking care of, and we're being counted on month by month by month for these specific things. And we've been able to, have the money in the bank for them to take a card, Bank of America card, and get the money from our account. Well, these things were going on, and needs kept popping up, and I thought, wow, to sustain this, wouldn't it be great if we had a grant? What's a grant? Don't know. Never had one, never did one, didn't know much about them. So I started looking into it and found the Weyerhaeuser Foundation, which is the Weyerhaeuser family, is a logging family in Minnesota. And they give lots of grants. And they had several international grants that were specifically looked like made for us. So I just wrote down what we'd done, what we're doing, what we project to do, and how many people we were helping, including the surrounding areas with education, with dental and medical and hygiene and things like this for the children in the area. And we got the grant, $65,000. Years later, I got into another situation where I had to take my attention off of Pennies for Peru for a little while, and the stock market crashed. Everybody pulled inward instead of outward, and the fundraising just basically stopped. And I spent, one night, all night, up, awake, praying, what am I going to do? I've got all these people completely dependent on this. 4 orphanages. How many kids? How many surrounding area people that are getting help and medical assistance and dental care? And I was just panicked. And the next morning, sitting over my coffee, getting up, ready to pick up the phone, to call Margarita, to call Anna Maria and say, this next month is going to be really rough. I don't know what we're going to do. Margarita's brother called me. My hand was on the phone. Margarita's brother called me, and he is like a Donald Trump in St. Louis, George Andrade. He said, I have a foundation that is getting ready to grow exponentially. We don't have a name. We don't even have a 501c3 yet. What would you think if we umbrellaed Pennies for Peru, kept everything the same as it is, and put this other foundation underneath it, and it's all one? I said, well, what's the answer to my prayers? I mean, can you make next month's bills? And here they are. He said, oh, we can do more than that. He said, I've already gotten a contribution of $250,000 for Pennies for Peru if this goes through. Done. So, last 2 years, that's what's done. And everything is taken care of by dividends. First, we put together the container. We had wheelchairs of every size and crutches and medical supplies, and put this container together with the help of Convoy of Hope, got it down there. The paperwork was ridiculous. The expense was ridiculous. It was so much work. And after we did this, we got a call from a man who said, I can make those wheelchairs, custom-made wheelchairs for $200 a piece. So every child in every orphanage, and as they come in, every child gets a brand new wheelchair. $200. These chairs cost $5,000 here. If you look at these grants, they tell you A, B, C, D, exactly what they want to know, exactly what you have to write. I mean, it's just like paint by numbers. And so we have lots and lots of, I've got boxes and boxes of who we've helped, what we've done for them, what they need, who's in the community, how many children there are in the community, and what their needs are. So it was just like, what are their needs? Stick it into the hole in the grant, and it was easy. The hardest part about the grant is keeping track the year that you spend that money to the penny, where it goes, what it goes for, who gets it. That paperwork is the toughest.
And do you go back to those people and ask them for funding the next year?
You sure can. You sure can. I did. My paperwork wasn't good enough, and I didn't get the grant again. So there's a lesson in that too. Because I'm telling you, I didn't have a class on this. I just was taking the money and putting it where it needed to go, and doing the best I can between my lack of Spanish and the paperwork. I don't feel proud of it. What I feel is so blessed that I feel like I was chosen to fit a need, and was glad I was willing to do it. And I give all the credit to my son. If he hadn't been here, this heart wouldn't have cracked, not for those people. Because it's hard, It's something that I kind of try to shield myself from before. But you can't do it if you've got one. So those kids became my kids.